it goes into the morphogenic field, and it creates a healing for the whole planet. If you forgive within your own heart, or, you know, you didn't have to have a dialogue and go, you did this and you did that. You just you did a clearing. That was wonderful. What about you, TJ? You ever experienced anything like that?
Like what?
Forgiveness. Just spontaneous forgiveness because of things like that. The separation you felt over some kind of issue or some kind of story. We all tell ourselves stories. You know, we judge people and project and reject, and we can go through our whole lives with rejection. Yeah, but what Agnes did was forgiveness.
Well, with religions teaching us, you know, do unto others, and forgiveness is number one, as above, so below, but we're not supposed to judge and all of that. Yeah, all that's ingrained basically from back in the day, at least in this reality, of, you know, the great church, and then the schism, and then the 16th century where it's all the Anabaptists came from. But most of us raised after that, if we weren't raised over in the old country as Muslims, it stemmed from Catholic and the break off from the Catholic, the great church. But, you know, here in today's time in America, we separated church and state, whether it was good or bad. Believers, you know, we're not supposed to judge, really. So I believe that what happened with the metaphysicians, which I claim to be, we always said that Solomon and then Jesus were the greatest metaphysicians. We followed that. And, you know, it's up to each individual, their own path. So I've learned just to love and be loved, but forgiveness is part of loving people. A lot of people in today's time say they will forgive, but they'll never forget. So if it's in your DNA or not, your memory codes, or if you're really DNA enhanced or hybrids or all the stuff we speak of today, you know, it's just a modern day's time. But, you know, the pagans were not necessarily in the Catholic Church. So I haven't done a lot of the history of the pagan rites, you know, but I have tried to study the books of what history has written. But maybe Agnes could talk about her historical knowledge on some of the things that were Anabaptist or before the Catholic Church. You know, we were talking Akkadian there for a little while, and Anu, and, you know, from the heavens came. I don't know if they believed in forgiveness until Jesus. Did they, in your reality, Agnes, forgiveness, was that a thing?
The Mennonites definitely believed in forgiveness, yes.
And what about before them, when you were talking Anunnaki and Anu, or was that Janet, or both of y'all really? Do you think in the Akkadian, back in the oldest fired clay tablets, the Sumerian, Ishtar and I guess Zarathustra, you think they've had a forgiveness, or was it?
Well, I think they created the religions. If we trace back the history of the creation of religions, which originally they were an attempt to control the population because there were so many human beings and so few Anunnaki, so they had to somehow control the population. So they introduced the concept of religion. So these principles that we get, like the Ten Commandments, those are all Anunnaki. So, yeah, they do talk, you know, the Bible's Anunnaki. So that is, we're getting it from the Bible. But did they practice it? You know, they're just like humans. You know, what humans practice it, which humans don't. So it's very complicated. But that is the origin of that concept. And, of course, Christ and the Messiah, that was their origin, their concept as well. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Okay, let's, where do we want to go now? There's a lot of things that we can cover with what you know. So you mentioned that you met Moses and Mary. Can you tell us how did you meet them, and what was that like, and what was your story with them?
I met Moses in the Middle East, in Jerusalem. I was just cleaning up lunch dishes one day when I felt this powerful force trying to contact me, and I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was getting sick, but I thought, okay, I'm going to go lie down on my couch and circle myself with white light and see what happens. And the day before this event, I should say, I had been in Jericho and reading something about a passage from Numbers, and that passage kind of stuck with me, and I thought, I remember thinking something about it, that I've been involved with this event that was mentioned in Numbers. And anyway, back to the couch in Jerusalem, and suddenly there's this fiery being standing beside my couch and where I was lying, and he was wearing this big, white long robe with a belt swinging around the middle and had this wild gray hair, and I knew immediately that it was Moses. And he kind of yelled at me, and I felt immediately that we'd known each other, we'd had a past life connection. And he told me at the time that I had been, what's the word I'm looking for? I had challenged him back in the day about who could be part of the Levi clan, which was the priestly clan. And I believe that I told him, look, anybody that has evolved to any kind of state of consciousness should be able to be a priest. And he didn't like that at all. So he created an earthquake, and he killed me along with a lot of other people. We were dissenters. And so he killed me. And it's interesting because this is recorded in the Bible, by the way, as well. And so we had this past life connection where he wasn't a very nice guy. And I discussed this with a good friend of mine here in the Kootenays who is a Kabbalistic rabbi, and he said, Moses was, he was not cool a lot of the time, So anyway, so that was my Moses experience, and boy, was he powerful. But, the whole Middle East is a huge portal, right, to the stars. It's an opening to the stars. And so there were a lot of beings coming and going there. And so that was my Moses experience. And Mother Mary, she came to me when I was living in northern Israel, about a stone's throw away from an ancient temple to Aphrodite, who's also known as Ishtar and Inanna, who I'm a reincarnation of. And it was about 1:30 at night, and I awoke to this being of light standing beside me, and she was wearing a blue robe, and she had the white scarf over her head, and she was just shining in all her glory of golden white light, and she was standing there with her hands, what I call in the prayer position. And I intuitively have taught my Reiki students to hold their hands that way when they're doing absent healing. And she was standing there with her hands in that prayer position, and she was directing energy to my pelvis, to the pelvic area, where I'd had pain since childbirth. It was this pain that had been there at this point for 20-some years, and she was simply directing energy at that pelvic area. And I was really shocked at this apparition, and I just oh my goodness, it was just like this explosion of light. It kind of got me by surprise, and I was very shocked and sat up in bed. And of course, then she disappeared, or I didn't see her anymore. But she came again 2 more times when I lived in Jerusalem. And one time I was facilitating a healing session for a student, and she wanted to clear her karma of her Jewish heritage, which there were a lot of pieces that didn't fit for her anymore. And we were doing this session, and I saw an apparition, a being come through the window and into my Reiki healing room, and it was in the form of a woman, and standing beside the table, and I sensed it was Mother Mary again, and there was this golden light coming from this being, and she channeled it through me. It came through my crown chakra and through my body, out to my hands, to my student, and she shook a little bit, and she said, "Oh my God, I felt that, and now there's something shifting in me." And moments later, this ball of golden light kind of, after it had gone through her, it bounced back into me and into my uterus, where I'd had a prolapse of uterus since, I don't know where, probably since childbirth. And at that moment, it felt like a zipper was being pulled up inside of me from my uterus area. And I knew in those moments that that prolapsed uterus had been readjusted and replaced to where it should be. And truly, this is what happened, because when I got back to Canada, I had I had some scans and mammograms, and what are the other full body scans called? Can't remember right now, but it confirmed that everything was in good shape down there. So another time when Mother Mary appeared, I asked her why she was appearing to me, and because I thought, this isn't just for me. It was also for my student and for another client at another time. And she told me that she was here and focusing on healing women's issues, and that was one of her karmic or whatever have you, one of her occupations at this time, one of those, that she was helping with in this dimension. So she's appeared recently at summer solstice just last year, and as we were walking, I had a group, we were walking our labyrinth. We have a huge labyrinth in our field here, and it's based on the one at the Chartres Cathedral, the one in the Chartres Cathedral in France, and we were walking around there, and I saw this bright, bright light coming from above. It kind of looked like it was coming from the sun, but it manifested into the shape of Mother Mary again, and she was walking amongst us there as we were going through the labyrinth. So she's here, willing to help, focused, helping with women's issues.
Do you believe in the Bhagavad Gita and the before the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, and all the Middle Eastern with yoga? And since you do Reiki, do you follow any of the ancient scriptures of the Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita, G-I-T-A.
That's a mouthful, yes.
I have a friend called Gita.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm an explorer in my own way. I've read books over the years on various. I've read some of Sitchin's books, and I met him and spoke with him at great length at a conference at Salisbury in 1993. And so no, I don't kind of follow anybody. I try to get my own vision, and sometimes, if I see something and can't determine it, I will Google and try to find out more information about what I'm seeing if I can't zone in on what's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's more, you mentioned dimensions. That's why they talk about the dimensions. It's ancient texts, that go all the way back, and a lot of people miss that in their world religions, but it's one of the big ones, Bhagavad Gita, and it's real important to people in our business. But, I was just wondering, because you mentioned dimensions, and they talk about the dimensions and do what's right, and there's order in the cosmos and all that. So I was just led to read that on my journey, but everybody's journey going up, Ascension is about everybody comparing, their theology or their scholarly ways or religions and, what makes them tick and what works for different people and individuals. But, I've been told, people called me Ishtar and Zeus' daughter and things, and I had that in my memory. So I was just wondering, because when we start talking dimensions, a lot of times we go back to the oldest known words on the planet. And, back in India, that was very, very important. And still is, by the way. So philosophical, theological research, it goes way before, Christ existed. So some people like to look at what we've put on the planet from the beginning of time. That's I think that's why the Anunnaki has gotten so popular, because of the Sanskrit and